Welcome, Dr. Thesigan.
Thank you.
I work for a Christian democratic political party in Sweden, and I'm interested in ideology. So I was looking for the ideological roots of Christian democracy, and one of the main part is political stewardship. So I was searching the internet, and I found a brilliant text by you. So here I am contacting you so we can talk about political stewardship. But I'm sure that all of the viewers and listeners would like to know a little bit about you. So I have found out that you are a psychological and philosophical counselor, and that you have been teaching professional and business ethics for the past 8 years at two different private universities in Thailand.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. And you also taught other subjects like law, ethics, professionalism, and cross-cultural communication, and also career development for tourism management. And you have an interest in environmental issues, human rights, and political stewardship. So here we are. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm very happy that you found my article and you found it useful. So at least we can share it with others.
Yes. Yes, yeah. I found it very interesting. And as I approached you, I told you that because I live in Northern Europe, in a country that's been stable, no wars for 200 years, and people really take democracy for granted. When talking about political stewardship, it's more about we need to care about the environment and be nice to each other. But I found your text is talking about what happens when there is no political stewardship. Would you go into that a little bit?
Yes. I wrote this article way back in November 17, 2010. That was 10 years ago.
Yes.
And the reason why I wrote it was just after my graduate studies, and I became very interested in political events that were taking place around me. And I was observing the behaviors of politicians, both locally and internationally. And I started asking a lot of questions within myself. Who is a politician? What should they be actually doing? What they should not be doing? You know, when I started asking these kind of questions, I started to search to understand just for myself. Basically, it was for myself to understand what these guys should be doing for us and in what way we can respond to them. So it started with that.
Mm-hmm. And you talk about elected leaders as managers and not owners of a nation state and the resources that they have. Could you distinguish a little bit what would be the difference between managing and owning in this respect?
Okay. When we talk about a steward, we know that when a steward is basically a manager. Mm-hmm. Now, we talk about managers. If we take an analogy of a company, when someone is appointed as a manager of a company, he's there basically to manage that entity for the stakeholders, the shareholders and others. Yes. And he is to find value and enrich the stakeholders. He's not there to enrich himself. So we already basically understand what is a managerial role is. Mm-hmm. So if we apply that to politics, politicians should be considered as managers because they are elected by the people. They are not there because they inherited the position. Mm-hmm. If they inherited the position, they will not be elected leaders. So because they are elected by the people, that means they, just like in the business environment where a person is employed as a manager, this person is also appointed as a manager. And as a manager, he is supposed to be managing everything for the stakeholders. And the stakeholders are the citizens of the nation.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, he is not an owner. He's not a ruler. So we clearly can understand that when we take the perception of a stakeholder, a steward,
Mm-hmm.
then the person who has been appointed in political position must behave as such, that
Yes.
he in a managerial role.
And you also take this, you tell the people that are reading your short paper to use it, the idea of political stewardship as a benchmark for evaluating if a rule is actually democratic or not.
Yes,
Yes.
I do. Because if we use the idea of political stewardship to start evaluating what is going around us, political behaviors, political activities, uh, whatever that is happening politically, we more or less can gauge whether what is happening is democratic or not.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you an example. Let's say a person is following political stewardship, and he considers himself to be a manager, not a ruler.
Yes.
So what he will be doing is he will behave and he will do everything that is necessary to unify the people, to bring profit to the people. He will not try to divide the people. He will not cause conflicts among the people, because those who cause conflicts among people are those who intend to own something or to take dominance over some people.
Yes.
People who behave or think like managers, they only think of what value they can add to the stakeholders.
Mm-hmm. And you were talking about you put up 6 different points on this, and you are actually already discussing the first one, which is if elected leaders do represent all citizens of a nation state, because then they are not dividing and they are looking for the interest of all in the nation state.
Correct. Because if you observe sometimes politicians, they will say, I'm from this party, I'm from that party, I'm working for these people, I'm working for that people. But actually, if you really look at a politician and if he considers himself a political steward, he will be working for the entire nation, for every single individual in that nation who is a citizen, right? He will be working for their good. He will not be taking sides, neither will he be in any way promoting divisions. So in that sense, we have to understand.
And that is such a good point, because, as I was saying, in really long-term democracies, sometimes you lose that viewpoint, and you start having a lot of debates are good, but angry debates where you view each other as enemies instead of us politicians together trying to promote what would be the common good for all people of our country.
Correct.
Yes.
Even if there is an issue in a nation or in a state, and there are politicians from different political parties, now if they consider themselves stewards of the nation, then they shouldn't be fighting over the issue. What they should be doing is they should be working as a team, get together, collaborate, and come up with a solution for the issue. But what we see most of the time is that they tend to fight over issues. They try to score points. They try to use the issue to get more popular vote from the people, and people fall for it. And this is where it causes division among the people. It doesn't benefit the stakeholders.
No, I agree with that. As a politician myself, I also see this, that there are always elections coming, and I understand why people or politicians want to say, this is my viewpoint, this is because you need the votes to get to power. But if you have the power, you also need to do what is good for the people. So,
True.
yes.
So actually, we are talking political stewardship as an ideology.
Mm.
In the pure sense, a person who really truly believes in this ideology will not be thinking of power first.
Mm.
They'll be thinking about service. They'll be thinking about how they can serve the people.
Mm.
And power will be secondary. And even if they think about power, it is about how to use power for the benefit of the people. So they will not be worried about, scoring points, winning an election.
Mm.
All that will become secondary.
That is a good point. As I mentioned before, you went through 6 different points in this paper. And another one that you had was how the resources of the nation states are invested and managed, if they are doing that transparent and accountable. Would you say something about that?
Yes. Now, the main reason why a politician who is playing a managerial role should manage the national resources properly is because if he doesn't, then it will lead to debts.
Mm.
And when it leads to debts, it is not just the current citizens that will end up paying the debts. It will be the children and grandchildren, and this is not going to be good for any nation state.
That is true.
Mm.
You had also a good point talking about in this paper, which I will post together with this video, hopefully, that what kind of, or how do elected leaders use power, if they use it to protect or to abuse the citizens. You were showing a picture saying that if a manager used the company security guards to beat up the company stakeholders, that would be like the elected leaders using the military on their own people.
True, very true. Now, usually, politicians who consider themselves stewards, they know that they are there in the managerial role. That means the real bosses are the people. How can you plan to beat up your boss, or you beat up your boss? The people are the bosses.
Yes.
So if the people are the bosses, and even the police and the military, they are there to protect and serve the people. And even if there is an issue, the people feel that something is wrong, they go out on the streets and demonstrate. They are still the bosses on the street, right? So you don't send the police and the military on the street to beat up your bosses who are saying, "Hey, look here, I have an issue with this thing, and I'm protesting because you don't hear me loud enough."
Yes.
So this, as you notice, I use the word whip. So if politicians use the police and the military as a whip, then what they are basically doing is they are saying, you are not the boss. I am the boss. You are just there to obey me. If you don't obey me or you give trouble to me, I will use these resources to whip you into line so that you toe the line. You do as I say. So that will start revealing their character. Whether these politicians are truly have a stewardship mind.
Yes, and if they are servants.
Yeah.
And another point you're making is about how they use legislation and for whose benefit any change in legislation would be.
Yeah, in most instances, if you notice of events going around the world, when somebody comes into power, one of the first things they try to do is change the law. And we always have to ask this question, why do you want to change the law? Especially when a particular law is really beneficial to the people. And even if you want to change the law, the initiation should come from the people. That means the people should say, hey, I don't like this law, or I think this law can be improved upon. Therefore, I want you to modify the law, change the law. So the initiation should come from the people. But most of the time it doesn't. It comes from the politician. So why does a politician want to change the law? In most instances, as we observe, they want to change the law because one, they want it to do certain things which is in the agenda, or two, to benefit them. But behind all this, the reason why politicians like to change the law is they do not want to go away. Managers are temporal position. That means they are there temporary and they are supposed to go away to make way for somebody better. But when somebody changes the law to stay, then he intends to form a dynasty, or he intends to pass it on to his beneficiaries or whatever, you see. So there's no more stewardship there, really.
Yes.
So in that sense, we should, as citizens of countries, we should ask, why is a politician changing the law? And even if he does, why is not initiated by the people? Why is it being initiated by them? And if there is even a facet of the law that is changed that does not benefit the people, then it only benefits the politician.
In a perfect world, you would have the politician being a representative of a political party that is actually a sort of grassroots movement of people wanting some kind of change. But it is, as you say, sometimes the politician that brings about the ideas of changing laws, which do not come from the people.
So when let's say the people do not accept the changes being proposed, it's then just ram down their throats, and they have to accept. If they don't accept, then he brings in the whip that is needed to make them listen to the changes that needs to take place. Yeah? So it's a vicious cycle, and it all starts because if we go back to the first point, they do not perceive themselves to be managers.
Yes.
It all begins with that. And I think this, even though we are talking now as an ideology, but it is vital that this ideology should be practiced. Or the problems that we are seeing in the world will never go away. Because most of the problems that is happening in the world is because people stop believing in ideology. They stop believing in ideals.
And then the policies that are being made and the proposals are almost always ad hoc on what is being talked about in newspapers, or what they are sort of extinguishing fires that come about, instead of having a long-term plan for what do we want to see for the country, what would be good for the citizens in the long run.
Yes. True. If we go by opinions, just mere opinions change by the day, by the minute. It keeps changing. And if we go by the opinions only, not by rationale, by values, by the traditions that actually work, then we're going to be lost, because one moment we just follow this trend and we change, and then another moment we change again, and there's no stability. Yeah. Now, the judiciary's role in a country is very important, because and the way the politician interacts, and the way they allow the judiciary to function freely, independently, is very important. Because if in any event, if a judiciary becomes just a rubber stamp for the politician, then the first thing that the judiciary is not able to give to the people is justice. This is why in certain scenarios where when the judiciary becomes a rubber stamp for the politician, then ordinary people have no justice. And even a criminal, because he might be connected to the politician, can get whatever done through the judiciary, and the judiciary will just rubber stamp everything and become a tool for the politician,
Yes, and
So,
a really, really important part of what we have the state for is to uphold justice.
Correct.
Yes.
Justice is a must, because laws are not justice. Laws are made by man, and where a group is a majority, they can pass any law they want. But it is the judiciary that who implements the law, make sure that there's justice for all stakeholders, all the citizens in the country. Now, if their role is manipulated or in any way restricted, then as ordinary citizens, they will not get justice.
The last point you were making was about how the elected leaders use the media. If it is a free media or if it would be more of propaganda.
Yes. Now, when we talk about media, media is usually used by politicians to get across to the people what they have in their mind. But in actual reality, we know that the media is there to inform the people what the people are supposed to know, not what they have to know. There's a difference. If the media is given the opportunity to actually play their role, where they can tell all sides of a story, then there will be proper information fed to the people, and when there is proper information fed to the people, they can make proper decisions, informed decisions. Propaganda is like, one guy gets up there and he starts shouting, this is what you should know. This is what is happening, and you should believe this is the truth. This is the gospel. And then if people are going to make a decision on that, it's no more informed decisions.
Wow. I really, both when I was reading this and in this talk, I really think that what you are saying can inspire politicians to act more as stewards and as servants, and also people to look on the people that are searching the positions as politicians, to look for representatives that would hold these values high, because you do want someone who's not searching power to exercise it for his own good, but for the good of the people.
Let me explain it, kind of like connect all of it together. When a politician, he thinks of himself as a steward, then he will make sure, as a steward, as a good manager, he will make sure in terms of resources, he will try to get maximum benefit for the people. Okay. The next thing he will do is, in terms of security for the people, he will make sure the armed forces and the police protects the people, in every way. They provide the security that is needed for the people, everyone in the country. He will make sure. And he will also make sure in terms of the laws that are being passed, he will make sure that nobody would want to change the law for an individual's benefit or a group's benefit. He will make sure that the laws are there for the benefit of all people, And in terms of the judiciary, he will make sure they are independent. They are given the opportunity that is needed to practice justice. He will not interfere. He will support them. If people go against the judiciary, he will remind them and say why the judiciary should be independent and why they should be supported, you know. And in terms of the news media, he will not try to use the news media. He will work with the news media to see how the news media and the politician can benefit the people. Now, all this, if you look at it, to the modern years, it sounds pure ideology. But if you really look at it, most of our problems in our world is because people don't practice this. They know this. It's not something new. This has always been there. These are some of the values, but they don't practice it. That's the problem.
I find this very inspiring, and I'm very thankful that you took the time to talk to me today so that I can post this to other people searching for an ideological view on what it is to be a leader and try to put that to use.
Can I add something?
Yes.
If we really want to see this kind of ideas be promoted in our societies, we should promote this kind of ideas at the educational level, at university levels, and we should allow the students to explore this kind of ideas, not teach something that is always how to make money, how to become rich, how to become successful in the career. If you really think about it, some people can become very rich, very successful, but if it is in an environment run by a corrupted politician, what good is it going to do?
Yes.
So we should actually start thinking about how we can promote these kind of ideas at university levels, school levels, high schools, universities, so that students get exposed to this kind of ideas, and they would want the adults to start practicing it. They would want the citizens to practice it. They would want the politicians to practice it. And when politicians do practice it, they will support them. When they don't, then they will do something about it.
Yes. That's an amazing conclusion. Thank you so much for being with me today, and I will post this both in the course that I'm running for Christian democracy, but also in an international group and in a Zimbabwean group that I am a part of. So thank you so much for talking to me today.
I thank you because even though I wrote an article 10 years ago, you were one of them who saw it as useful, and because of that, we were able to do this interview. So I must also thank you for your insightfulness. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.